Your legal questions on this Trial Tuesday with our resident law expert, David Aylor. David, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me over.
to the house?
Yeah, looks great.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Well, today we have a viewer question. Somebody asking a question about divorce, and I know you specialize in family law. So here we go. My husband and I were married for 38 years, and in that time, I bought and successfully ran a business. We are now in the early stages of divorce, and he wants the business. Can he take that from me? Thank you for your question, Angie in Goose Creek. She's got a great question there.
She does, because that sort of thing comes up often. Essentially, what happens is within that marriage is when the business started. So whether it be her business or his business, it's actually going to be what they consider marital property. Probably not something she's probably going to be happy about. However, you know, there's a lot of things that can go on with the negotiations to try to work it out where obviously she can keep the business, maybe he keeps something else, sort of like a trade-off. But anything that starts within a marriage, for instance, if someone starts their own business or they start investing money, marital money into stocks and make money off of it, that's going to be marital property in general. It really has to be something they owned outright prior to the marriage to even be able to pull it outside of the marriage.
Okay, so she's going to have to, what, split it halfway, or? Yeah,
essentially it would be about a halfway split if that's what they end up doing. But like I said, again, a lot of times within marriages, there may be other items that they can kind of agree to split, or a cash payment, that sort of thing. But, particularly when you have a lot of debts or assets, because unfortunately in this economy you see a lot more debts in some of the divorces than you do assets, it's very important early on to try to get with an attorney just to try to find out where you stand. Because, if you have a business and that business is going to end up maybe even being dissolved, that's something you'd want to know ahead of time, to try to keep it to the best value that you can.
Yeah, you make a good point there. This is not what Ann asked, but just to expand upon this a little bit, what if the business was in financial troubles and he doesn't want the business and now she's left with it and she can't afford to keep it up?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, a lot of times with two people in it, they're partners, so they're going to be partners in that business. Unfortunately, what happens often is there may be debts from a business, and one party or the other will say, hey, that wasn't my business, that was your failing business, I shouldn't have to pay for it. Unfortunately, though, if it's in the marriage, it's considered marital debt, no different than if it was an asset to the marriage, and it had a lot of value to it.
Right, and vice versa. So if it had a lot of value, then they were still going to have to go through the same thing. Is it possible, have you ever seen it happen, where they're able to be congenial and keep the business and split the money 50-50?
Absolutely. You obviously have silent partners in many types of businesses. So in some situations like this, not too often, but sometimes if you have one member of the marriage that is running the business and the other one's not, and the only way they can really decide to keep it going is if one of them gets a percentage of the profits and a silent partner. You do see arrangements like that. Not too often though. Usually what more often happens is when one side or the other is just bought out per se of the business, just like a dissolving of a partnership, because also ultimately that's what a marriage is. Across the board, whether it be related to the debts or assets. And then when you get into children and things like that, obviously that's a lot different. But when it comes to money, and that's usually what you're talking about, property or money, it's going to be split one way or the other, or it's going to be an exchange process.
So the bottom line is they just need to kind of figure out what they want to do. If she wants to keep the business, maybe offer up something else that was in the marriage that's of value.
Absolutely. And again, I can't stress enough, particularly when you have things of value or there's a lot of debt within a marriage, maybe from credit cards or loans, things like that, you really want to consult with an attorney to find out, what your options are, so you can start to get prepared for, hey, I'm not going to live in this house anymore, or, we're going to need to sell this, that sort of thing.
Yeah, Counselor, we do appreciate it.
Thanks always. I appreciate you inviting me over your house.
Thank you so much, David. We appreciate you.